Yo, what's going on guys, XpertFusion here, and a few weeks ago I did my top 3 most underrated Call of Duty games of all time. Definitely go check out that video if you haven't already, but today we're going to be going over my top 3 most overrated Call of Duty games of all time, which means simply 3 COD games that I think people praise way more than what they actually deserve. This is of course my opinion. If you disagree, feel free to let me know in the comment section below. I do not hate these games. This is not my top 3 least favorite Call of Duties of all time. These are just in the order of the ones where I feel the general consensus, the general opinion of the game is very different than my own, meaning I think it's much worse than what a lot of people seem to give it credit for. I also decided to open up this question to you guys on Twitter, so I'll read off a couple of replies to my tweet. Definitely go follow me on Twitter, link in the description down below. First things first, here we have /Heart saying, Black Ops 2, I like it occasionally and has a decent campaign, but would I go back and play it as much as I do the other games? Hell no. Zombies has a lackluster amount of content and most of the maps kinda suck. I don't hate it, but it certainly isn't top 5 COD, at least for me. Y'all know me, I love Black Ops 2, so obviously I disagree with that opinion, but I can respect it. I do think Zombies does have a decent amount of crappy maps within Black Ops 2. Revived Gamer also says Black Ops 2, the campaign for me is just alright, the MP is very fun and was pretty amazing, but it still had its issues. Mainly the reason is, of course, zombies, which seems that's a popular theme here. A lot of people do think Black Ops 2 Zombies is overrated, and he kind of says the same thing. There's only really 2 to 3 amazing maps, and the other ones kind of suck. The launch maps specifically were very, very bad. The game modes they added, like Grief and Turn, didn't live up to their fullest expectations, and the entirety of the mode feeling like it was a prequel to what they actually wanted to do. Also, it felt like the game lacked a lot of features that BO1 brought, including wager matches and stuff like that. I don't know, I just didn't think BO2 is amazing as people say it is. It's still a great game, easily top 5 to 6, but not number 1 to 2 as people say it is, in my opinion. I can agree with the statement about there not being as many maps, but the thing is, I think the other half of the maps within Zombies are just so good that it kind of makes up for it. Like, I'd consider Mob, Buried, and Origins to be like some of the best of all time, so that's why personally I'm able to accept the fact that Transit and Die Rise aren't nearly as good. Barebones Gaming says easily Black Ops 3. I remember thinking 3 years after the GOAT Black Ops 2, and this is what we got. Again, y'all know I'm going to disagree with this because I love Black Ops 3. And also, Daddy Durag says Black Ops 3, horrible microtransactions, jetpacks, shit campaign. Only good thing about it was zombies. So honestly, I agree with a lot of his statements. I just don't think they make the game bad for me, except for the jetpacks part. I actually kind of love the jetpacks, but that's obviously up to preference. I can agree the microtransactions were pretty bad. The campaign was kind of one of the worst campaigns we ever had in COD. I don't think it was shit, but still not that good. But I think there's a lot of other good things about the game that make those few bad things not really that important anymore. And we have Vector here saying, I always see praise for Modern Warfare 3, but I thought it was completely average. And Razor Claw says, I'd say MW2, even though there are good aspects like the campaign and the streaks, it is a good game. I just think game-breaking issues like danger close, grenade launchers, death streaks, etc. bring it down. I feel like people are very nostalgic, and I can see where he's coming from. And there's also a lot of comments talking about Modern Warfare 2019. There was a decent amount of those, which I expected to see because that one is definitely widely praised. But now let's get into my opinions of what I think is the top 3 most overrated Call of Duty games of all time. Number 3, Modern Warfare 2019. I know you all were definitely expecting to see this on this list. If you are a longtime follower of this channel, you know I wasn't too crazy about this game. Now, it's not higher for a few reasons. My main reason being, I can see why people like it. Like, I completely understand. I don't think this is one of those games where it's like, I just don't get why anyone likes it. I'm like, why does everyone love this game? It makes no sense. I'm not like that. I really can understand why certain people love this game because it is made for a certain audience, and the way it's made for that audience is actually really well executed, like very, very well. That's why it is such a popular game, why a lot of people love it, but it does not adhere to my play style. It does not adhere to the way I like to play Call of Duty. Therefore, I have a lot of issues with it. But there's, again, a lot of great things about it. Campaign is fantastic. Warzone is one of the best things that ever happened to Call of Duty, even though it's not necessarily tied to Modern Warfare anymore. It still was birthed within the Modern Warfare engine, so I have to give it credit there. But since, of course, this is an opinionated ranking, I gotta start going into my subjective feelings about this damn game, and the multiplayer is one of my least favorites in the entire franchise. Do I think this is one of the worst Call of Duties of all time? Actually, no. If you watch my ranking video that I made about a year ago of all 13 CODs, I actually put this at like number 9, which is still relatively low, but it's not that low. And then Warzone came out, and Honestly, it didn't push up this game that much because I started hating the multiplayer even more as time went on, but still, number 9 is really not that bad. Now, again, I really just think the multiplayer is just not made for me. It's made for a very specific casual audience, also players who like those sort of more tactical-esque games where you're going slower around the map. It's very good for people who like search and destroy as well. Search and destroy actually works really well in this game, but for players like me who like to run and gun primarily, we like when there's a lot of skill involved. We don't like when it's kind of random, because yes, this game is very random. That is indisputable. I can't agree with somebody who tries to tell me that this game has a very specific, predictable layout to it. No. Most matches are random. That's why I feel like skill-based matchmaking wasn't as noticeable in this game as it is in Cold War, because I feel like less skill was involved in Modern Warfare 2019. I felt like even if you were playing the sweatiest of sweats, you could still dominate. Like, you could. It's possible. That's why I feel like we didn't see many people complaining about skill-based matchmaking until people started noticing it, because, you know, people like Exclusive Ace, Drifter, and such would be posting videos on it, and then people were like, oh, now we have something to complain about when we're getting shit on, even if we're not getting shit on because of skill-based matchmaking. But now that everyone knows what that is, they feel it a lot more in Cold War, because Cold War has that longer time to kill, so it feels like it's harder to do good against really good players. Modern Warfare didn't have that. Modern Warfare was just so damn random with how fast the time to kill was, how random the spawns were, because the maps were not designed for an arena shooter. It was designed for a military simulator, and let me tell you, Call of Duty does not work well in a military simulator-like aspect. It works much better in that, you know, linear arcade type shooter atmosphere. That is what COD was based off of. Don't even try to tell me that COD was not based off of that. Go play some of the older maps. They had that linear feel to it, but they started just going differently with it. They wanted all these flanking routes, these safe spaces, these different camping spots, which then again, camping wasn't entirely terrible on every map. It just depends on the people you're playing with. That really matters a lot. If you're playing with certain players who love to camp, you're going to get that more often, obviously. They also changed some very fundamental things about Call of Duty, like the minimap, which still to this day is one of the worst changes any Call of Duty game has ever made, as well as the footsteps and how they work, because they were just not good. The footstep audio was just terrible. But the fact that they removed dead silence as an actual perk completely made it almost impossible to rush, because of how damn loud these footsteps were and how damn impossible it was to hide yourself from them unless you used the field order. But the field order also made you run like crazy quickly, so when you used it, you were like overpowered, so it became like this really just crutch field order, so people weren't using any other field orders, making it imbalanced. The perk balance itself wasn't very good. The way it was all laid out, I mean, there was perks that were clearly better than every other perk, so you had problems like Claymores being way too overpowered and just blowing people up unless you use EOD. Therefore, EOD was basically used on every damn class. Because of how they changed the minimap, everyone was using Ghost. The creative class system, I love Gunsmith, I think it's a cool idea, but the rest of it is just going back to what we had back in the past when there was grenade spam, because you were forced to use equipment on every single damn class. So that was making people use Claymores way more often. It was making people use grenades way more often. The C4s, I mean, remember when C4s were being used in this game like crazy? Thank God they nerfed them like the last month of the game. Before that, people were tossing C4s like there was no tomorrow. You cannot get away from C4s in this damn game. They decided to remove Prestige system for God knows what reason, which completely just destroyed any sense of grinding in this game. Damascus wasn't even that great of a camo, so people didn't even want to grind for that either, and the grind for it was not fun because some of the challenges for it were ridiculous, like having to get 100 kills while mounting with a weapon. That completely slows down the pacing of any game you're in. Nobody wants to sit there mounting with their MP5 or whatever for like 20 minutes. Nobody wants to do that. Honestly, I could be here all day talking about this, but we got to get onto some other COD games as well. But to finish it off, I would also like to say that when it comes to Modern Warfare, and the reason why it's not higher, also not just because I do think there's certain good aspects about the game, but honestly, it is overrated in certain places where you look, right? But if you look on the Twitter community, like the hardcore fan base, Modern Warfare is actually widely hated on, like by a lot of people. People do not like this game. It's usually the casual community who absolutely eats this game up. Obviously, that's generalizing them. Of course, there's some people within the casual community who hate it. There's some within the hardcore who love it. It doesn't have to be one or the other. But I'm just saying, generally speaking, a lot of the hardcore people do not like this game. A lot of the casuals absolutely love it, but the casuals make up the majority, and that's important. The IMDb score for Modern Warfare is actually an 8.5 out of 10, which is insanely good. But again, IMDb is mainly focused on stories anyways, so you're going to see most reviews on that game based on the campaign as opposed to based on the multiplayer. When you look at the Metacritic scores, it's an 80% score by the critic reviews, but user is actually a 3.4, which is one of the worst for Call of Duties ever. And again, that's why I'm saying a lot of people actually do hate this game. It is true, but a lot of people love it as well. So I do think it's overrated because of that, but it would be much higher if the, hardcore people loved it as much as the casuals, I feel like, do as well, but I don't really see that as often. Coming to number 2 spot, I've got Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. So this game is like hit or miss for a lot of people. I know people who say this is their favorite COD of all time. I know people who say this is one of their least favorites of all time. And then I know a couple people who just kind of have it in the middle. For me, it's definitely closer towards the bottom of my list. It's not my least favorite by any means, but I've never been able to become attached to this game's multiplayer in any significant way for a lot of reasons why. I also don't like games like Ghosts and Modern Warfare 2019, as well as even in some ways Modern Warfare 2. And I'm basically just naming off all the Infinity Ward CODs. Yes, you guys know me by now. I definitely prefer Treyarch games compared to Infinity Ward games. That's always been that way. Even though I can appreciate some Infinity Ward titles, I definitely can appreciate their campaigns. That's one thing about Modern Warfare 3 that is fantastic. Modern Warfare 3's got a great campaign, for sure. But their multiplayers and their lack of zombies, other than, of course, Infinite Warfare. Infinite Warfare is like a whole different game to me. Like, that's the one Infinity Ward game that I absolutely love. And again, you guys probably know that if you're a longtime fan of the channel. But let's talk about Modern Warfare 3. So why do I think this is overrated? So when we're talking about the multiplayer, because as I said, campaign is fine. That's a great thing. The multiplayer itself has way too many flaws for me to be able to consider it a great Call of Duty multiplayer experience. First of all, the maps suck. A lot of them. I'm just gonna come out and say it. I see a lot of people saying the maps in this game are great, and I really never understood it. I really only find myself enjoying like maybe 3 or 4 maps in the entire game, including DLC. Maybe 3 or 4 maps. Every other map is either, average or below that. I think the layouts of them are really messy. They're very like ant farmy. They're not very, linear. You don't have good spawns. The flank routes are everywhere. Kind of like my problems with Modern Warfare 2019's maps, where they're just not very well designed. Dome, Hard Hat are the only examples of maps that I think are absolutely fantastic in this game, and I can appreciate a couple other maps in the game. I'd say like Seatown I actually think is a pretty good map, but there's a lot of maps in the game that I despise. But that's not even the biggest issues with the game. Another thing, of course, the time to kill is incredibly fast, which, yes, there's a certain portion of the community that likes that fast time to kill. Again, I'm not a fan of fast time to kill. I think it takes away any real skill gap that the game has, because literally anyone with any skill could pretty easily kill you from across the map with really any gun, as long as, they get their shot on, which they normally will, because COD has some pretty sharp aim assist. Now, this isn't number 1 for a few reasons. A, because this is not as highly rated as the number 1 COD on this list will be. And also, I can actually appreciate a decent amount about this game, specifically for the innovations it provided for Call of Duty. This game was very innovative in a lot of different ways. So, first of all, point streaks, right? Now, I feel like this is something that is going to be kind of a theme throughout the entire Call of Duty franchise. Infinity Ward feels more innovative than Treyarch, like they implement a lot more of those newer features that are really interesting, but Treyarch seems to perfect those ideas. So they introduced point streaks, finally giving us a way to earn our streaks through playing the objective, but then Treyarch implements score streaks within Black Ops 2, which to me is a much more perfected version of point streaks. They started to mess with the create class a little bit in this game. Not too much, but they started doing a little bit more with it, like for example the weapon perks, which I thought was really cool because you can do things like get more attachments or more, I think it was like one of them is like reduced recoil, but instead of it being an attachment, it's instead a weapon perk. And then of course Black Ops 2 went further with this idea and made it into, pick 10 rather than having just weapon perks. You now just have, the pick 10 customization. A lot of things like that. They also included some new game modes we've never seen before, like Kill Confirm. This is the first time Kill Confirm was in any Call of Duty game, which is pretty huge because that's become a staple in COD ever since then. It's pretty crazy to think that Kill Confirmed wasn't in any COD before Modern Warfare 3. A lot of people don't realize that. But the core gameplay of Modern Warfare 3 I do not like. Again, the map design and the time to kill is a big reason for that. There's a lot of other factors that go into it. The game also just looks really ugly. I don't know if anybody agrees with me on this, but it is one of the ugliest looking CODs to date. And not in terms of like graphics, but in terms of the color palette. It is so gray and green and brown. It is disgusting. disgusting. I'm sorry. It's gross. It's gross to look at. It physically is. And you compare this to like Infinite Warfare, which was their second COD after this, because they did Ghost and then Infinite Warfare. You compare this to Infinite Warfare. Infinite Warfare has beautiful colors. That game is so vibrant and just outstanding with how it looks. But compared to Modern Warfare 3, oh my god. And I don't know if that's fair because you're comparing a game that came out 5 years later, but even if we were to compare this to Black Ops 2, Black Ops 2's color palette is a million times better, and that just came out a year after this. I don't know why it looks like that. I don't know what the reasoning was. Maybe they want it to be more gritty or whatever, but we don't have to have it be gray to be gritty, because even real life itself isn't that damn gray. It's more gray than life itself. I just don't like it. I just don't like it. And the game also felt relatively clunky. Not in terms of the hit detection. The hit detection was actually really good, but in terms of the movement. Like, for example, if you had a certain weapon, it would make you incredibly slow, like incredibly clunky, unless you had certain attachments on, which some people would prefer that because, again, they like it slower paced. They like their Call of Duty a little slower. This is an opinionated video. I prefer much faster paced games, and this game doesn't feel that fast because of that, because of the map design, because of the time to kill. All of that makes for a much slower Call of Duty experience. And then when it comes to Spec Ops and survival mode and all that, it's just Spec Ops. Obviously, I'm a bit biased here because I absolutely love zombies and I always want my COD games to have zombies, so if it doesn't have zombies, it's automatically going to be a negative for the game, especially if the other mode can't really live up to what zombies was. Extinction, at least for Ghosts, was a good attempt at that, but I feel like I really just don't care for Spec Ops. I never really had, so that is something to keep in mind. In terms of the IMDb and critic scores for Modern Warfare 3, the IMDb score is an 8 out of 10, which is really damn high. Not as high as Modern Warfare 2019 actually, but still pretty damn high. The Metacritic score is an 88, but the user score is a 3.5. So as I said before, I'm pretty sure the user scores for like every single Call of Duty is just really low. I don't think there's been a single one that's been high, so I don't know if that matters, if I even should look at the rating. There's only 8,000 people who have rated on the Metacritic user scores, so I guess that doesn't really matter. But the IMDb score has like over 16,000, so it's a little bit more reliable. But again, those scores are more so based on the story of the game, because those people on IMDb usually care more about this campaign portions of Call of Duty games, so that's just how that is. And coming number one spot, it actually pains me to put this here because I have a lot of nostalgia for this game, a lot of nostalgia. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. I think this game is very, 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 very overrated. This is probably one of the highest rated CODs of all time. When you hear people saying what's their favorite Call of Duty, it's usually either Modern Warfare 2, Black Ops 1, or Black Ops 2. I feel like those are the three ones that I hear the most. So yeah, this one's got to be the most overrated to me, though, because I don't think it lives up to any of the greatness of Black Ops 1 or Black Ops 2, not even close, really. So what do I not like about this game? Well, I've made countless videos talking about that before, but I'm going to start with the positives first, because I do appreciate this game for a number of reasons, and one of the main thing is, of course, the nostalgia I have for it. But again, I don't like to let nostalgia blind me. You know, I have those memories saved in my mind, and I can still have those memories be valid while still agreeing that the game wasn't that great. There's plenty of terrible games that I played back in the day that I have a lot of good memories for, and I cherish those memories, but I could still understand that the game itself wasn't all that great. Campaign, amazing. Again, for Modern Warfare 3's case and Modern Warfare 2019, they have amazing campaigns, I'm not denying that, but for me, the campaign is not the biggest part of the game or the most important part, because the campaign you play once and you usually never play it again, maybe once or twice later on in the future if you feel like it, but it's not as important as multiplayer or the co-op mode, because those modes are the ones you're playing throughout the entire life cycle and into the future. That's why I think multiplayer and co-op will always be so much more important. So the campaign could be great, but it doesn't mean it's going to automatically save the game from possibly being kind of booty. And same thing for Spec Ops in this game. It's whatever. I don't really care much for it. But multiplayer, I don't know, man. There's a lot of issues with it. There's some good. I think there's a lot of great maps in this game, but there's also a lot of terrible maps, and I think people kind of overlook that. They just think of all the great maps like High Rise and Terminal and Favela, but they don't think of the terrible ones. And I feel like a lot of people, even the terrible ones, they still praise them because of nostalgia. Like maps like Wasteland, which, you know, it is up to opinion. You might like that map, like, legitimately, sure, but I feel like a lot of people, if they saw that same map be added to like a newer COD for the first time, people would absolutely hate the map. And we've seen this happen. Look at Gustav Canyon from World War II. That map's layout is not that different from Wasteland, but everyone hated on Gustav. and everyone kind of likes Wasteland. Well, not everyone, but you know what I mean, a decent amount of people like it. So Modern Warfare 2's maps, there was just a lot of poor ones. Again, there was a couple amazing ones, but that doesn't really make up for the fact that a decent amount of them just were not well designed. For Search and Destroy, they could be kind of fun, sure. Search and Destroy map design isn't really that important, but I'm talking about like main modes like TDM and Domination. They didn't play all that well. They were very unbalanced. Like Estate, I got a lot of nostalgia for Estate. That map was fun to play on back in the day, but looking at it objectively, the map is not well designed. It's very one-sided, so really any match is automatically going to be tailored towards whatever side can take that house. So it just doesn't really work all that well as a map. In terms of the movement, this is one of the least fluid CODs of all time. Like, the movement is so incredibly clunky. A lot of the older CODs were like that, but some of them kind of perfected the movement. Like, I think Black Ops 1 felt pretty damn good, to be honest. Black Ops 2 as well. But the movement was just, you felt like you were like a pile of rocks or something. Like, you know, you just don't feel like you can move around very quickly. You don't feel like you can, you know, go around corners, aim down sights. So that made the game feel a lot slower. So people weren't able to do such crazy things like they could in other CODs, where you can get like insane, you know, feeds from like someone trying to shoot you in the back. You turn around and like, you know, destroy them. Like, you can't do that as much in this game because of how clunky it is. So a lot of people tend to camp more often, and also the map design doesn't help with that either. So people just camp, and the time to kill is pretty fast. It's not incredibly fast, but it's fast enough to the point where, again, people aren't going to want to go out in the open on these maps. They're going to probably stick to the interiors of these maps, which again promotes even more camping. The kill streaks are really cool, right? But because they're kill streaks, and because there's a nuke kill streak at 25 kills, and because you can use other kill streaks in order to get that nuke, that even promotes camping to a massive extreme. You know how many people will literally camp for 7 kills to get their Harrier, and then from that 7 kills to the 25 kills to get the nuke, they will sit inside and just let their Harrier get the kills, and then they'll probably use their chopper gunner or AC-130 to get the rest of the kills and get a nuke pretty easily. It's just not well balanced. The perks are not well balanced either, not even close, to be honest. They're very, very, very terrible. One-man army is probably the worst example. That's just a perk that should not have existed in the first place. Noob tubes were just overpowered, especially when you combine them with one-man army. Commando Pro, why is that a perk? Why? No one should be able to knife you from literally 10 feet away. That is not a good system. Stopping power should not be a perk either. I don't know why that even came back from previous CODs. I'm glad this was the last Call of Duty to have it. This game was the first COD to include death streaks. Whose idea was that, to include death streaks? And I don't know why they ever turned in Modern Warfare 3. I will never understand that, but death streaks were one of the worst additions to Call of Duty I've ever seen. They're worse than specialists. Honestly, I'd say worse than supply drops. I'm not even kidding. Maybe not worse than skill-based matchmaking though, but it's pretty bad. Death streaks are just, I think they really just take some fun out of the game, especially when you get killed by a dude who just got killed 5 times over. So now he's got painkiller and he's got like double the health as you. So you come after him and he's got like double the health for your little gunfight, and then he kills you all because he just died 5 times in a row. But for some reason he now deserves to kill you because he died 5 times in a row. It just doesn't make any sense. The IMDb score for Modern Warfare 2 is an 8.8 out of 10, which is incredibly high. Again, IMDb mainly focuses on story-related things, so that makes sense. The story in this game was pretty damn good. The Metascore on Metacritic is 94, and the user score is a 6.5, which sounds bad, but again, like I said, the user scores are usually pretty damn low for every COD, so a 6.5 is actually pretty damn good. What's really interesting about Modern Warfare 2 is that a lot of people seem to praise it more in retrospect than they did when it was first out. And you might not believe me on this, because everyone thinks Modern Warfare 2 is like the godfather of video games. You know, everyone thinks, oh, everyone loved it when it was first out. If you look at the old DLC trailers for Modern Warfare 2, they were like hated on to the extreme. They were, you know, dislike bombed. People in the comments were complaining how broken the game was because of the problems I just stated. They thought it was broken. When I played Modern Warfare 2 back in the day, I never noticed any of that stuff because I was never part of the YouTube community when it comes to Modern Warfare 2. All I did was play the games with my friends, mainly just split screen or play through the campaign. I didn't even get online till I think BO1, so I didn't even get to really experience Modern Warfare 2's onlineness until the year after. So like while it was the main Call of Duty, I wasn't playing online. But I didn't realize how many people actually didn't enjoy the game because of a lot of the problems that I listed. They all said COD 4 is better, COD 4 is better. But this was such an important part of a lot of people's lives. I guess a lot of people started playing video games around this point, or they started playing Call of Duty around this point. So the game is very nostalgic to a lot of people, and that's why I think people praise it so much, and they've been praising it since like 2010, 2011, like only a couple years after the game was out. They look back on this game with such like importance, and I can agree with that. There is an important value to Modern Warfare 2, but objectively as a game, it is not that fantastic as a multiplayer experience. And the Spec Ops, again, I think it's just kind of meh, Campaign though, again, I will say this a million times, it's a masterpiece, so I gotta give it at least that. So that is my ranking of the top 3 most overrated Call of Duty games of all time. Let me know your list in the comments section below. Do you disagree with me? Do you agree with me? Of course, if you disagree, feel free to let me know why in the comment section. Do not be all obnoxious like, oh, you disrespected my favorite video game. Oh, like, just don't give me that crap. Be respectful. Just, talk in the comments. Let me know what you think. If you want to see more videos like this, let me know. I don't know what other videos I would do, maybe overrated or underrated things for other games or other things within COD, like maybe underrated maps, overrated maps, stuff like that. I don't know. Let me know. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.